Today, Europhile Reviews is looking at The Phantom Society by Frédéric Colombier and Hervé Marly, Vincent Dutré and Nayad. I hope I've pronounced those correctly. It's a beautiful production and it's a deduction game based around ghost hunting, intended for 4 players but with variants for 2 and 3 players. Essentially, this is Ghostbusters the board game, just by another name, and that's even hinted at in the manual, with the hotel that we're playing in being called the Sir Philip Venkman Malombier Manor Hotel, which is clearly a nod to Peter Venkman from Ghostbusters. The hotel is also called the Grand Palace Hotel, apparently, according to the box, in one slight diversion from the rules. I do wonder whether this subtitle might suggest that there are plans for alternate sets to come out in the future, but I have no basis for that suggestion, apart from the fact that it's got this subtitle on the box. This board represents the hotel, the Scottish hotel, in which the ghosts are hiding and trashing rooms. 2 of the players, in the 4-player standard version of the game, 2 of the players will be controlling ghosts. So we have these ghost tokens here, a blue ghost, a white ghost, a green ghost, and a red ghost. And 2 of these will be controlled by each of the ghost players. The other 2 players will be playing the ghost hunters. Now, the blue ghosts can only hide under blue rooms, the red ghosts only under red rooms, the green ghosts under green rooms, and the white ghosts under white rooms. And when they hide, the way that it works is that the piece comes off the board here, and the token is placed inside there, like this, and then the piece is placed back on. So at the start of the game, first the players will place these tiles over the board, and then after that the players will, the ghost hunter players will cover their eyes, and the ghost players will hide their ghosts around this board. From there on, the rules basically are based around destroying various rooms in this hotel on both sides. The ghosts want to destroy the rooms just to make mischief, and the hunters are destroying the rooms while searching for the ghosts. The first thing that happens in the game is that the ghosts will destroy a room. Now, they can destroy any room that is adjacent to where the ghost is hiding. So, for example, we know that there is a ghost hiding under this room, but the ghost hunters don't know this. So, this ghost has the opportunity to destroy any one of these adjacent rooms. So he might, for example, choose to destroy this one. It's taken off the board, it's flipped over, and we've got a slimed version of the room on the back there. Okay, so this room is taken to one side, and it's worth 1 point for the ghosts. Now, the ghosts are aiming to destroy 45 points worth of rooms, so 1 point isn't particularly helpful. But with the hunters destroying rooms as well, those points are all going to be added to the ghosts' total. Now, one important strategy point is that this ghost now considers this room adjacent. So in any number of empty spaces in a straight line does not block adjacency. So now this one is adjacent, all of these are adjacent, but also this one. However, now it's one of the ghost hunter's turns. And the ghost hunter needs to choose a room which he thinks that ghost might be in. Now, as the ghost hunter, I know that that ghost is going to be in one of these rooms. So I've got to choose essentially one of those rooms to destroy, or I could destroy anywhere on the board to see if I could pick out one of the other 3 ghosts, but it's more likely I'm going to try and destroy one of these. So, as the ghost hunter, I want to limit the amount of damage that's done, so I'm unlikely to destroy this number 6. So I might go for this number 1 up here, and there's nothing there. The green ones have a sort of littered library sort of image on the back of them. Now, we keep on doing this, and the total amount of destroyed rooms keeps adding up until eventually 45 points are reached, or until all the ghosts are revealed. So the ghosts win if 45 points have been destroyed, and the hunters win if all 4 ghosts have been revealed. Now, it is worth bearing in mind that the ghost hunters do not know which colour ghosts each player is controlling, and that does make a significant difference. Because if I knew that, let's put one of these tiles back here. If I knew that the player whose turn it is was the blue ghost, and then this room disappeared, well, I would know instantly that it must be under this tile and take that off. So that's an important rules point that's been missed in one of the other videos, which is why I mention it now. We haven't yet looked at the very first stage of the game, which is about setting up the board. Now, the first time that you play this will feel like it's entirely arbitrary, that basically it doesn't matter where you put the tiles, that you could just put them anywhere and it would make very little difference. That isn't the case, and as you play the game a few times, you'll very quickly start to see that there's quite a lot of strategy in this first step of the game. And I'll talk through some of those strategies briefly now to give you an idea of the sort of decisions that you're going to be making. One thing that might occur to you if you're a ghost player is that it is not much use to you if there are 6s or high valued rooms, 6 is the maximum, in the corner of the board. The reason for this is that if we have other rooms around here and you are hiding under here, oh, there would need to be a green ghost to hide under the green room. So if I was hiding under here and I wanted to destroy this 6, I'm going to very quickly give myself away, because if I destroy this 6 as a ghost, then the player is going to know that I'm one of these 3. So it's very easy for the ghost hunters to find me eventually. So the ghosts are going to want to avoid the high value cards going into the corners of the board. Now, equally, the hunters are going to want that situation, so they're going to want to put 6s and 5s and 4s into the corner of the board, where it's much harder for the ghosts to destroy them without giving themselves away. Clearly, that also means that the ghosts are going to be trying to put the higher value rooms more towards the centre of the board, so they're going to want these 6s and 5s up towards the middle here. And commonly what you'll see at the beginning of the game is a situation like this. So you'll end up with the 2 ghosts going here, and you might end up with the 2 ghost hunters going here, and then the board starts to build out from that. But it can become quite a tactical sort of strategic exercise, this building up of the board. The other thing that seems to be quite helpful for the ghost hunters is to try and keep all of one colour roughly in the same region of the board. If I can sort of pool all my green tiles all around here, then I know that the green ghost is going to be confined to one area, and if I eliminate some of the other ghosts, it's going to be easier to home in on that particular area. So there is strategy in this part of the game, even if it initially doesn't seem apparent. When you've played the game a couple of times in a sitting, and it tends to take about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to play through a game of this, you'll quickly start to hear players saying, oh, it's too easy for the ghosts, or it's too easy for the hunters, you know, that there's a lack of balance in there. Well, the game offers us a system whereby we can set ourselves objectives, and it's quite a clever system, and it does add to the strategy in the game, although it's quite hard to get your head round. Essentially, each team of 2 players has a set of cards like this, and they're all beautifully illustrated, as you can see, and they've all got values on them which correspond to the values on the room. So for example, this is worth 4 points essentially in terms of the rooms, and then these ones here. So they're lovely images, and they've got these names on them which are entirely irrelevant. They never come up at any other point in the game, so I'm not quite sure what the thinking was with that, but they're lovely images and they do add to the theme. Now, the way that this works is at the beginning of the game, the players think about whether they want to be the ghosts or the hunters. If they want to be the ghosts, they're going to have to bid a higher total than their opponents. So if I was going to be the ghosts, I might want to bid 54,000, something like that. So there we are, 54,000. Now that is my bid for how many rooms I think I could destroy if I was the ghosts. So bearing in mind that in the basic game, 45 is the total that you'd be looking for. Here I've bid 54. I'm going to wipe out 54 points worth of rooms. Now my opponents, they also have a deck of these cards, but they only have odd numbers, so that there can never be a draw. So they might think, well, yeah, I want to be the ghosts, so I'm going to bid quite high as well, bearing in mind that the highest value is the team that gets to be the ghosts. So he's going to bid, let's say, we're going to go quite high, we think, so we're going to go 47,000. So this team, these have been unseen by the other team, so these are currently face down. 47,000 they bid, and then we reveal both. 47,000 and 54,000. Now this team has bid higher, so they are going to be the ghosts, but their target is not going to be 54,000, their target is going to be 47,000. So by bidding a little bit lower, this team has made it easier for the ghosts. Now there's a lot of strategy in this point, and it's really hard to think it all through at the start. You know, if you bid too low, what impact is that going to have? If they'd bid 32, for example, thinking, oh, I really don't want to be the ghosts, I want to be the hunters, so they bid 32, suddenly we have a situation where their opponents are the ghosts, but they only have to achieve 32 points, which is really easy. So there's a whole lot of back and forth, you know, having a chat with your team member, working out what your strategy is going to be, and it becomes quite a sociable sort of game. It's quite nice to play a few sittings in one session, staying as the same team, so that you can build up a little bit of that sort of, you know, we're going to get them next time sort of attitude towards the game. These add a lot to the game, but I did find it slightly odd, the amount of theme that has been put into this game, when essentially the mechanics are very simple, and these names, and they kind of suggest that these cards should be doing something more than just being bidding cards. But they are lovely, lovely artwork, and you know, I can't fault it from that perspective at all. I bought Phantom Society really on a bit of a whim. You know, I saw the beautiful artwork. I love the artwork by this artist who also did Tokaido and Seasons and a whole load of other games with. I'm a sucker for games with beautiful, beautiful artwork, and this really is one. I love the ghost busting theme. I like deduction games, so it really was quite an easy sell for me. And I must say, when I first played it, I was disappointed because it only took 10 minutes. It was so brief, which for a 4-player game is really short. 10 minutes, and there didn't seem to be that much to it. It seemed very arbitrary which tokens I picked up, and you know, I often would have a selection of maybe 7 or 8 different rooms that the ghost could be in, and I have to pick one of them, and I might be right or I might be wrong. Chances are I'm going to be wrong. But there are moments like that in the game where really it does become a bit of a luck-driven thing. Now that's not the case once you've played it a few times, and actually it grows on you extremely quickly. Only after sort of 3 or 4 games do you start to really see, hang on a minute, there's something I can do here which is going to really change events, and the strategy starts to creep in. Those bidding cards really help. I haven't played it with 2 players or with 3 players, and in fact in the rules that's described as a variant as opposed to being you know, the standard way to play it. But I can imagine losing that camaraderie of the sort of teamwork, of the partnerships, would lose a lot from the game. And there are other reasons which I'll go on to, which I think there might be a slight problem with playing this with 2 or with 3. Although I don't think it's terminal, I think you could still do it. but I think there may be slight issues with that. But the game has a lot of strategy actually once you get going, and although it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes, if you play a few games in a row, then the excitement sort of builds, and rivalry starts to build up between the teams, and it really feels like a game that you should play a few times in one sitting. There are some oddities with it in terms of production and that sort of thing. These tiles, you know, they're fantastic. You know, the artwork on them is great, and I particularly love the sort of destroyed rooms on the back. But they don't feature. These destroyed rooms never really come into play. It feels like they should be placed on the board, you know, that way up, and then when the room is destroyed, you know, you flip it over and leave it on the board. The trouble is the board then looks very cluttered, and it's not very easy to read the situation on there, so you can't really do that. So, you know, it feels slightly odd that we don't have a sort of much clearer, more delineated sort of picture on the back showing that this room has been destroyed that we could leave on the board. That's a minor point. Slightly more significant point is that not these tiles so much, but the ghost tiles, they fit so tightly into the holes that you could damage the edges around them. And in fact, if you put them in one way, they won't really fit at all, and you'd have to force them. But in the other way, they kind of slot in quite nicely, but you can't get them back out again without sort of popping them through. And that's a slightly irritating part about it. There's no reason that they needed to be quite so tight. But it's not hugely significant. Probably the most significant problem I've had with it so far is that the ghost players forget where they've put the ghosts. And that happens quite a lot. And it's quite easy, and I do it. It's quite easy to forget. You're looking at this grid, and I've even played games where a ghost player has destroyed a room and they've revealed a ghost because they've forgotten where the ghosts are. I would have thought the game would have incorporated some sort of component or something which rectified that, made it easier to remember where you are. There is a grid reference on the board, but it's tiny, really tiny, and I didn't even spot it for a few games. But I guess the players could write down which grid reference their ghosts are in and fold up a bit of paper, you know, and keep it to one side, and that could help. But that is an oddity in the game, that it does really rely on you having quite a good memory for where you've put something. In terms of what other games this is like, well, we're in the same sort of genre as Mr. Jack and as Scotland Yard, these sort of deduction games, hidden movement type games. It's not the same as these games. If you've got these games, then the Phantom Society is a very different experience, but it is that genre. There are lots of other games in this genre: Letters from Whitechapel, Fury of Dracula, Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, you know, and they're all worth having a look at. But the Phantom Society is a unique experience. It is its own thing. I love the theme. I love the Ghostbusters sort of concept, and it really works well with that, with the film. You know, this destroying of hotel rooms in order to grab the ghosts, and the ghosts also destroying the rooms. That all fits in really nicely, and it does feel like it could have been a film tie-in if if they'd been able to afford the rights or something like that. Although the artwork and the you know, the setting, this Scottish mansion, all that, it's lovely as it is. You don't need that, but it does help to sell it to new players and say, look, do you want to play this game? It's sort of like Ghostbusters, you know. That really works for it. I think this game's got a lot going for it, and I think if you like the look of it, then you know, pick it up. The components are fantastic. The artwork's fantastic. The game builds. You're going to play it a few times before you really get to grips with it. So you know, give it a few goes. One slightly odd thing about it, which I haven't mentioned, is I'm not sure what families are going to make of it. It kind of feels like it's too much thinking. It's too sort of the way your brain has to work around those bidding cards. It's quite a convoluted sort of system. I think it's a good system, but I'm not sure families are going to go for it. They're going to get confused, and I think a lot of gamers are going to play this once and think, is too simple, and not realise that with a few plays that's going to build, you know. And I think a few gamers might say, actually, one game, no, that's probably enough. There's nothing much to this, and I think they'd be wrong. So I think there's going to be some trouble marketing it from that point of view, but who knows? It's a new game, and I hope it does very well. All right, the Phantom Society.